Welcome to a new episode. We're building an LGB garden railway. Yes, viewers, as you see, we've been busy here today. In the last episode, we meticulously arranged our track plan with the stones on the vibrant, lush green grass. And we really liked that, so Michael already started early this morning with this great tool to very nicely build out this track here, dug in quite nicely, so that these beautiful stones, our lawn edging stones, as we see them here, fit in wonderfully, ensuring that they naturally have a bit more stability. Yes, indeed, we have it downstairs. You'll see it here. Once we have firmly compacted the earth here, especially in the width of the lawn edging stones, and then for balancing, but not only for balancing. Do we have basalt or gravel meticulously laid out here? You can actually do as much as you desire, and of course, you always have to diligently check with the lawn edging stones, which seamlessly fit into each other, in the curve, ensuring that they are precisely the same height. And here you see now it's not quite the same. That means I have to fill in a bit more. We indeed also want the train to operate smoothly. I sincerely hope I dug deep enough or high enough, but all of that can easily be compensated for. It's not so bad, really. Then, of course, we also have our spirit level, so if it's not perfect at times, although when laying out all the stones, one should really always check again with the spirit level. Keep adding a bit of gravel underneath as well, so that the tracks rest well, that everything is nice and straight, and that the train can run smoothly.
Now, we have a bit of a challenge because, well, that was actually quite a bit of work. I genuinely needed at least half a day for this particular circle. It's because there were roots underneath, so what do we have? A tool used. It was used brutally. I never thought I would need something like this from the hardware store. A bit of neighborly borrowing, thank God. So really hit it hard, so I can get rid of these roots a bit. Not sure what tree you had, but it was...
We had a bamboo. And indeed we had a root barrier, but despite the root barrier, a root still made its way outside.
So, I really dealt with your bamboo. What precisely did you bury there? I stumbled upon a remarkable treasure. So, with the grappling hook in there, and actually, at the very beginning, I only did the following. I have this... What do you call it here? That is also a spade for sticking in. Exactly. I've noticed I'm not the super gardener. That's you, Elke. I just took it, laid it by those stones, and stepped on it. You can also see the dirt on my shoes.
After the area, one can have a straight line.
Great. And of course, I removed the tracks beforehand with meticulous care so that I wouldn't damage them with the spade. And here it is still lying, just exactly laid out underneath from the last time, the siding. Over there lies our Warnhof track, where you're standing, Elke, behind you. I'd leave that one, as we've still got to cut some out later. And I just pierced it down here. And then, yes indeed, I have a back.
That was about a piece of lawn we removed. And you actually said I shouldn't just throw it away. What do you intend to do with that? Exactly, so if we want to build our bridge, then we can also build it as little side hills, or generally incorporate it. Or maybe one has dug out too much on the sides. You can fill it up a bit. You can always take a bit away. Treatable like moss.
Or like an embankment. You go up onto the track just a little bit. Okay, great. So, that's still quite a bit of work, isn't it? What I mainly heard was, unmistakably knocking firmly, knocking straight now. We went a little deeper back here. I dug a little deeper than the stones are here. I'll tell you why. Because I still had Andreas in the back of my mind, Andreas Franz, who gave us tips in the last episodes and said, remember, you still need to be a bit careful with the electronics, he told me in a side conversation, because so far we've made it relatively simple. Where is my circuit? Here. At some point, we just methodically approached the track, equipped with a durable cable featuring the 2 terminal clamps, clearly marked with positive and negative signs. And now comes a very, very important part today. Indeed, we urgently need to discuss that briefly before we can finalize it now. Namely, with larger systems, you indeed often actually need a power feed. This is simply because the electricity will run out at some point or the power will diminish at some point, and then it's a shame if the train no longer runs. And that's why it's important. One must now decide decide whether the blue or the red wire must be inside or outside. This is now extremely very important indeed because we can now actually plan a ring circuit and simply save and simply feed the electricity in multiple times. I have still organized a few connection cables for myself. There you can see them. Those are the track connection cables, and the clamp here comes with it. Are here in original packaging, and we can now do this to track multiple times. Let's see how often right away, ensuring they don't short-circuit their track. We must decide. Red always on the same side or blue-red always together. It had two colors, so blue and red. Actually, where doesn't matter. But once you've selected red inside, it indeed always has to be red inside. So, and we have now built a relatively small setup here because we said we're doing this purely as an illustrative example, so we don't really need too much space and it can be seen quite well on camera, even if Andreas might have constructed his setup a bit larger. Glad we reconnected with Andreas. Best regards to him.
Best regards to Munich. And I must honestly say, you have been very, very diligent. Thank you very much. Still fun.
The weather has cleared up again. Without rain or snow, poking around here is also fun. We started a bit earlier in the year. There was still some snow last time, so I wouldn't have wanted to do that with frozen ground, but now it was somewhat manageable with the thawed ground. Andreas, please, ring main. How often do I need this injection?
Michel, for your system, one more, so one feed-in and one additional one would most definitely suffice, without a doubt. If you really want to make it safe and secure, maybe actually choose a new feed every 3-4 meters. For this particular purpose, it certainly makes sense that you should also have already laid the power line by this specific time. What has been offered by many railways is that one might consider the method of laying empty containers into the ground, which are then carefully led back up at the locations where the next feed is to be made. The advantage of the Leo brand is now you only need to lay 2 cables in there for the time being. You discussed the red and blue cable, which reaches the rail once on the left and once on the right. But of course, you are also expandable with such an empty conduit. If at some point lighting is added, if switches want to be added, then additional cables can be pulled in. And just like in house construction, where empty conduits are installed to perhaps someday pull a network cable through, it would make sense here to install this empty conduit at this time to then be able to expand further later on. The smaller the system is, the less important that is. The larger the system is, the more crucial it is that a new feed-in occurs over longer distances. Every crossing from one track to another is a certain resistance. And if you have somehow installed 100 meters or even more, then it is certainly good to have 2, 3, 4 feed-ins to avoid a voltage drop.
Let me say it plainly, I once got a conduit. You sent that to me before. Just pick it up at the hardware store. I once bought one. Or rather, that means I bought one. Elke, you were at the hardware store while I was digging here. That should be enough for our system, per those standards, including 5. Just one example. Meters, 6 meters, no idea. We could lay that now. Got something else? Can you keep focus? And indeed, I have successfully acquired the original connection cables from LGB once again. They are available in various colors. I just picked a color here. It is just exemplary now, namely black and white. Of course, we could also opt to select other colors now. And so, as I precisely understood you, Andreas, you would now essentially proceed to run this cable through this particular pipe. So that it virtually goes through the entire facility, right? And then, you would probably drill in here at some point, or perhaps cut the pipe, so that the cable length emerges out again from time to time, correct?
There is still a habitat. If you're planning to pull the next cable after 10 years, it truly makes sense to introduce a piece of string now. So, in addition to the cable, a piece of string so that you can then pull through another cable. So always use the old cable along with the new one. So, a tip, if you're pulling your first cable now, take some twine or, if necessary, a second cable, so that you have another cable to pull more cables through later on.
I've not grasped that yet. Maybe acting dumb. So the twine, it goes in now and then I pull the second cable?
If you ever want to catch up, you won't have it as nice in your hands as you do now. The logo is then laid in the ground. Maybe even with a kink, and that you can later pull a new cable again. You now have binding colors with which you can then pull the new cable.
Not clear? Somewhat. Okay, great. That would be my connection cable for electricity. I can use that now too. And you would have talked earlier about light and about switches, which can also be operated with a control panel or digitally. Will also be included in an extra episode. That means it would then again be two twin leads, I believe that's what it's called, so a double cable. They'd be pulled into the same pipe. Exactly. Okay, indeed. I have organized something else precisely because you also assigned that to me, and I have organized this here because we always talk about being outside. And indeed, this is a compact, specifically designed surface-mounted storage solution right here, for environments that are notably rich in moisture. I'll actually open it up real quickly. Look, this is still here, the fingernail in the guy. It's indeed a challenge. Do we still have one open up front? I'm already open, it's all good. With violence. At the beginning, exactly. And now, you can basically go through here on the side with a small drill, and then you could drill several holes here, and can then basically go from this cable into this box, and then out again. Because our cable has to be led away to the rail somewhere, and so that the cables are not lying open in the grass. Did you recommend something like this to me? Or did I actually just end up buying that incorrectly?
You bought perfectly. In the end, the conduit ends in this box, and that's where the next section of the conduit begins to the next box. Then, you can always do the wiring at that specific spot. So, connect the two cables together with clamps, and then additionally lay the cable onto the track. So there, the distribution essentially takes place between this ring circuit and the direct connection to the rail system.
That means in here I could then, I do want a damp room, but I'm not working with Dirk chandelier terminals, but I have also organized something else. And I have also organized something else? Namely? I have meticulously organized such small clamps, which have 3 distinct connections that can be easily opened. Actually, that's relatively easy. Then you can fold these up and then you can basically insert the wire here and can lead it out again twice. That would be, I believe, what we need for the ring main. Namely, we go in once with the cable and want to come out again so that we can move on to the next section. And once we basically head off to the track, right? Exactly. Okay, so now I have these little clamps here, an alternative to the terminal block we have. And indeed, you could also conveniently place them inside this specially designed surface-mounted box now, so that they don't get wet even in the face of wind and inclement weather conditions. Right, this is certainly a very professional solution. I am indeed thrilled. Man, Andreas, take a look. Help me just Skype with you for a bit. I believe you will also be taking appointments soon. So, then we did everything right. But, and now the actual question, Andreas, because we have now... I'm taking a few things off your hands again. We followed your advice and you said, wow, dig a hole precisely, shovel deep indeed. We have now successfully finalized the task of carefully placing these specific lawn edging stones, effectively, but if I now lay my pipe underneath, I actually have to drill even deeper by the depth of this pipe, or are you laying the pipe next to it?
You are now a good 20 cm deep. If you now establish a layer of gravel, the pipe can be comfortably laid in this gravel layer, and then the stone is placed on top of it. This won't go lower again. If you put this stone on it now, it'd disappear in the hole.
So I'm going to put the pipe in here for a test now, so we can see it. I'm attaching a pipe here on the side. Yes, so that means this would now go into the gravel. Very round? Sorry, open that up a bit, here with it. So, we would basically put it in here like this, right?
Yes. If the gravel is put around it now, then you can certainly put the stone on top, because the stone is supposed to be about 2 centimeters above the grass surface. That would work now. We need more gravel so the stone doesn't tilt.
So carefully embed the pipe directly into the gravel bed.
It's so...
Yes? Yes? Then, I'll give you just a bit more gravel so we can try that out. Exactly. And now I have to ask again, Andreas, because if we cut the pipe now, then this plate or this box here, this plastic box, so this flush-mounted box, right, surface-mounted box, for the damp rooms, it would essentially also lie under the stone. Then, I can't really get to it later, or rather I just lift the stone, right?
Either you take the stone up and just have to remember where the can is by marking it somehow, or perhaps you even place the can up there and then, later on, proceed to put a house on it.
Okay, so that means almost even here on the side, where they are standing now, it will be dug up here. And then you can, oh, for example, I have one like this here. We still have our little guardhouse here, where we also have a throttle controller, which is available from LGB. And then, you could essentially conceal the box. It would even accommodate perfectly underneath. Look, in terms of size, then you could easily conceal it with that. That would be, I believe, the simplest solution that one has with it, in which case I would benefit more from it. So now I would have, so to speak, if you say that 2 feed-ins would be enough for me, I would now have 2 such boxes that I would bury, then one would already have to plan 2 little houses. Still a bit of station left.
Or perhaps a bit of moss over it might actually work too, or naturally, everything. And you will surely feature my house in one of the upcoming episodes as well, won't you? Or some decoration. We have already planned. That can then be seamlessly, yet quite effectively integrated.
And nicely integrate with everything. And indeed, we actually got a bit of inspiration, you know, from the corner where you live. As the corner, so the neighborhood. Then something like this, look, such a small country house. Beautiful. We could do that wonderfully, for example, it's inside. Well, we can already put the box on it and hide it. Okay. Good. That means we still have quite a bit of work ahead of us. So that means we can still do it, but Elke, or that means what we, probably, I have to do it now, or may I do it? I now have to carefully tap the floor firmly with the rubber mallet, ensuring that it is perfectly nice and level. You have also meticulously organized the little flowers. Do we also have to talk about how we're going to green the whole thing comprehensively? I'm now compacting the ground so that we can then pour in the basalt and the gravel on a perfectly level surface. It wasn't bad at all that I drilled a bit deeper, because the stone is supposed to be a bit higher anyway. And then we can nicely insert the pipe. And that thing with the dental floss, indeed, that's really an excellent tip, thank you very much. And then, we can lay our connecting cable in. And then we can put the tracks back on. And I also have to dig up the 2 tracks here in the middle. I'm really going to have sore muscles tomorrow, I'm telling you. Eager for it.
Thank you, Andreas, for the great tips for upcoming episodes. Doing this, you won't need the gym either. You're saving that.
That's right. I already feel like such a muscular figure indeed. Because you can. Because you can. Exactly. Have fun building, truly have fun recreating, and everything you need to recreate, we've also incorporated into the description text under this video again. A bit of tools and part numbers needed for connection cables, terminals, for the ring circuit. Hope we explained it correctly. Otherwise, feel free to leave feedback in the comments. Until the next episode.